Joining us now, a man who needs no introduction, former Notre Dame running back who was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame after 13 years in the NFL career with the Rams and the Steelers, culminating with the Super Bowl championship in his hometown. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the boss, Jerome Bettis. How you doing, Jerome?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Hey, before we get into the intricacies of Notre Dame, how's the golf game? That's the most important question.
You're right about that. The golf game is pretty good right now. I'm in single digits and it's getting better. COVID, the one silver lining is that my golf game has gotten a lot better.
Well, if you're in single digits, you're giving a lot of money away, that's for sure. Let's go back to the early days, all right? When did you first get that nickname, the Bus?
Well, actually, somebody in the student body newspaper wrote an article, and they referenced the bus, and I don't know if it was taking people to school or people going for a ride. I'm not sure kind of what the reference was, but once they used it, the student body would always chant, "Nobody stops the bus." Every time I would get a run, they would kind of chant that, and it kind of stuck. And when I went to Western Pennsylvania, went to Pittsburgh, then there was a lot of people from the Notre Dame family that remembered that, and it kind of took off when I got to Pittsburgh.
You played on some talented, needless to say, talented teams during your time at ND. And the rumor has it the competition, Jerome, on the practice field was more difficult than the games. Can you verify?
It was. I'll tell you that. I mean, it was pretty tough. Every single, practice, there was always a sense of competition, not only with the guys on the other side, but also players that were maybe behind you or in front of you. If you were the starting tailback, you had three tailbacks that wanted that job. So you had to not only compete against the guys across from you, you had to compete against the guys that were at the same position. So it was a extremely competitive environment that we were in.
I've heard so many Lou Holtz stories over the years, and a lot of them happen to involve you. Is there a favorite that you can recount?
Well, a favorite? I don't know if there's a favorite because it was never good at the time. But what I will say is the one that was most important to me was when I was going into my sophomore year and I was going to be a starter, that we were having practices right before the season was began, and Coach Oates, right at the beginning of practice, guys that just got going, he called a practice and he brought everybody. So everybody knew that somebody was in trouble, because when you call a practice early in the practice, it's serious. So he said, "We've got a guy that's going to cost us the championship." And he went on and on and on. And then he said, "But this is your football team. I'll let you guys handle it." And he said, "Jerome Bettis, will you stand up?" And I was shocked. And then that practice, went on. It was the hardest practice I had ever had. But what it did was I was so, revved up and ready to go. Everybody was taking shots at me, but I had one of my best practices. And so after that practice, he came up to me and asked me, how was I doing? And I was like, it was terrible. And he said, "I was just trying to motivate you." And it didn't work, because after that day, I was a different football player, because I understood that I needed to exert more energy, more effort, and be a better player practice-wise, and then that would make me a better player on the field. So Coach Holtz, it wasn't orthodox, but it worked.
They never are orthodox when you're coaching great players. So you leave Notre Dame. You're the 10th overall pick by the Rams. They get a coaching change, traded to the Steelers. And then lo and behold, after a great career with the Steelers, your final game is in your hometown of Detroit. How special was that?
Now that was really special because I got a chance to finish my career where it all started. So that was a very special moment. My mom and dad was able to be there to see it all and enjoy in that special moment. And obviously, it taken 13 years to get to that point, but the goal was always to win a championship and to have a chance to win a championship in my hometown in front of my hometown fans, and then to retire after the game. It was just magical because that was that was the culmination of a lifelong battle to win a championship, and we won.
Let's go back to your nickname because your nickname spawned your foundation, and you call it the Bus Stops Here. What inspired you, Jerome, to start the foundation, and how have you sort of grown into it since it first began?
Well, what inspired me was there was a gentleman by the name of Reggie McKenzie, and unfortunately, he went to the University of Michigan. No, but he came back to, and he was from Detroit area, and he did a football camp there for years for free for kids. And I was one of the kids that benefited from that camp and from his generosity, and it really changed my trajectory in terms of where I saw myself. And I said to myself, if I ever had that opportunity, I would try to provide that same spark. And that was the thought initially. And then as I went further down the road, in terms of wanting to do more, wanting to help, then the foundation kind of took on a totally different meaning and became much more important because we were able to then touch many more kids, and we were able to really try to provide that spark. And our goal has always been to provide a hand up, not a handout, and that's what we're doing because that hand up was extended to me, and I want to try to do the same. So that's kind of why I do what I do. But it is one of the most fulfilling things that I've ever done because when you see the smiles on the kids' faces, when you see the parents that appreciate the effort that you put in, it's all worthwhile.
Hey, Jerome, when you're watching this current Notre Dame team, how joyous do you get when you watch those Notre Dame running backs eat? Because they eat a lot, don't they?
They do, and it's great to see what they're doing, and it's great to see the evolution. Obviously, the speed is something that you look at and you say, "Wow, you can see the speed on the field," and that's something that is real exciting as a running back, and knowing that the running game has taken some lumps the last few years in terms of the mindset of running the football. To see us be able to run the football consistently and for big chunks of yards, that it warms my heart.
Hey, when you played in the NFL, you played teams twice in the division in a season all the time. It's very rare in college, though. Clemson, again, how tough is it going to be to beat them again?
It is the hardest thing to do to beat a team twice in the same year. Usually, in my knowledge of the game and having played teams twice a year, every year, it's extremely hard. Usually, you don't beat a team twice in a year, but there are opportunities that present themselves, and I say that because in order to beat a team the second time, a couple things have to happen. One, you have to win the turnover battle because the turnovers kind of sway the momentum of the game. So you got to win the turnover battle, and you have to win the special teams battle, whether that's punting for better field position, whether that's a great kickoff return, a punt return. You've got to win the special teams area, and you've got to play great defense. And I think if you can do that, then you have a chance to beating a team twice. The difficult part is both teams know each other from a personnel standpoint. So now it becomes a situation of, can the coaches create advantages on either side of the football? And the coach that's able to create the best advantage, I think that's the team that usually goes in with a little bit of the edge. But then ultimately the players have to play, and you look at the game and you say, if our best players play well, then we'll have a chance to win that football game.
Well, it's not often you get to visit with a Hall of Famer. Jerome, it was a pleasure, my man. Appreciate your time on the fight.
Thank you. No problem. Thanks for having me. Go Irish.
All right.